His name is the Muse. He's an extremely demented artist that uses the blood of his victims to create his—
See, the hanging people, that's all already in the show.
It was, yeah.
It was very nice. But look, it's his black outfit. Surprised he didn't use that.
masterpieces, as he'd say, and is a truly horrifying character. Just look at his menacing design. The gorilla artist motif, along with a blank canvas of a suit as blood seeps from his eyes to his chest to form a murky puddle. And don't even get me started on his face underneath. It's literally nightmare fuel. Also, the Muse's name, by definition, means to be the person that is the source of inspiration in a creative artist, which I think is so bloody cool. But anyways, getting into the Muse's story, it starts with an invitation being sent to Blind Spot, Daredevil's partner, on a location. Blind Spot ends up arriving to this location and—
Fucking Blind Spot. Is that?
No, she had a different name in the Spider-Man
in the
show.
Spider-Man, your friend, dude, who's gonna remember that fucking name of that cartoon? Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man?
She had a
Her
different
name was fucking Blind Spot?
No, she had a different name. Put up the clip. She had a whole different name.
I don't know if she did. I think he named her by her real name.
And what he finds is a dead body under a jarring mural painted in blood. Daredevil and Blind Spot conduct an investigation thoroughly on the mural till Daredevil's radar sense picks up something very odd on the mural. This paint. It's not just one person's blood. Wait, what? How many people are up there? I could be off.
How would he be able to tell? Would it be like he can smell the different pluses and minuses and A's and B's?
Yeah, he'd have to smell the different types of blood, I guess.
Yeah, like that's a little higher res than I expected his ability to be.
By one or two, but by my count, at least 113. Weeks later, after the cleanup, people would try to show off the bloody mural like a piece of art at a museum for $10 admission, quickly causing a discourse in New York, with many people referring to this artist using blood from missing people as the Vincent van Gogh. But during a show, however, while the owner of the building would be served a court order to not show the mural off, he would enter the building to find that the mural was now ruined, showing another invitation to a different location with the phrase, "You're only as good as your last performance." Later that same night, Matt Murdock, representing the Van Gogh case, is called to the location of the new crime scene, involving several dead Inhumans in numerous poses doing simple tasks. And while observing the scene, Matt hears the killer's heartbeat from another building. Therefore, Matt leaves the scene, entering the staircase to dress up as Daredevil, as he can hear
the killer's name, a heartbeat from another building, as if there couldn't be more than one person in that one building. It must have been vacated.
Well, no, he did that. He does that in the show.
No, I mean, like, finding a bad guy.
the killer pacing on the building nearby, getting anxious. Flipping out of the building, deducing that this killer is an artist through and through, and he likes to watch his work simmer with the crowd. Hello? Did you like my work? As the Muse would use some sort of new power to draw in senses and smells, causing Daredevil to experience sensory overload, with the Muse repeatedly asking Daredevil if he likes his work, till Daredevil throws his billy club at the Muse, only for him to break it like a twig, displaying his raw power, before pulling the pin off of a fake grenade, making his grand exit. Days later, the Muse would then strike again, kidnapping the judge on the Van Gogh case, causing Blind Spot there by coincidence to leave.
You'd have to go back on that. So he actually has powers to
He
overload his
has
senses?
a power that sucks in senses or some shit. Like, I guess the easiest way for me to think about it is Bond, but that's an anime, therefore most people wouldn't.
So he sucks it up your senses and distorts your senses, sucking them up?
And that's what he did.
Making him a more versatile person like
Let me go
Daredevil?
listen to it real quick. What is this? Sense sounds? It's like he's drawing them into himself, like black holes or sensory. Yeah, he literally does do that. Never mind.
Okay, so he's just making himself a superhuman.
No, he's like one of those decoy grenades in Black Ops or any Call of Duty where you throw it and then like 50 other gunshots go off. You can't tell what's going on in the map.
No, but he's still sucking that all up. That's what makes him superhuman. That's what makes his reflexes so nice.
As Blind Spot would follow Muse down into a sewer system to find him with several different important figures of New York tied up to be parts of his next bloody mural, believing that this new art piece that he'll be working on will top the last two indefinitely, because the Muse's next piece will be about injustice. As he he'd start to cut off a cop's ear to start the process, only for Blindspot to make his presence known to draw the Muse away from his victims to enact a wild goose chase, so Blindspot could circle back and rescue the hostages and fight the Muse one-on-one while he'd be lost in the sewers. But seeing that the Muse would be too much for him, he'd try to escape the sewers and call Daredevil for help, but in trying to leave the sewers, the Muse would pull him back in. And after Blindspot's kidnapping, Daredevil would scour New York with his radar sense, literally melting his brain till he'd find where Blindspot would be held. Meanwhile, Blindspot finds himself in the Muse's menagerie of horrors, with the Muse telling Blindspot that he's really special because he's getting a behind-the-scenes look at a true artist's work. As the Muse looks out at his work of brains hanging from the ceiling, telling Blindspot that he knows
Nice.
what he's doing is morally wrong, but it doesn't feel wrong to him. People don't really understand what I do. They object to my preferred medium, if you get my meaning. I only have so much time to work before someone manages to stop me. I need to use every moment. So yes, Blindspot, I have to do this. If I don't, who will? After the Muse would explain his mindset to Blindspot, he then wonders what he'll make out of Blindspot, until Daredevil crashes through a nearby window, throwing another one of his billy clubs at the Muse only for him to catch it again, as Daredevil then snarls at the Muse to let Blindspot go or he'll crush every bone in his body. So the Muse just goes, okay, sure, whatever. But looking into his eyes, the Muse thinks to himself that he finally knows what to make him and that he's feeling a little inspired as he plucks both of Blindspot's eyes out. And as Daredevil screams, the Muse recalls that it's perfect because he's Blindspot. It's just beautiful. After this, Daredevil
Well, that's not happening in the show, so I don't have to worry about that.
saves Blindspot and runs after the Muse, where they'd both end up fighting like a scene from a horror movie, trading several different blows against one another, until Daredevil would be sent crashing through a wall, to be met with all 113 people being bled to death to serve as the Muse's paint for his art hanging from the ceiling. As the Muse would recall that these people are better off dead now anyway, because they'll be immortal in his art, before trying to make his exit. That is until he'd be met with several gunmen on the roof, leading the Muse to be arrested as Daredevil would catch up to ask how he'll be punished for his crimes, with the Muse just eerily breaking his own hand for Daredevil as he says he's happy to do it and that it's good for the story, before Daredevil unmasks him, revealing the Muse's horrifying creepypasta looking face. And after this pretty jarring adventure, all 113 people used for Muse's blood art would be saved, and Blindspot would lose his eyes for some time, but not.
Okay, well, this just tells me a lot. He's a very anticlimactic character. He'll get away, and obviously he's not a very big bad guy then. If he just lets himself get captured, he's just there for the
I know,
shock
but
value.
again, he's tough enough to fight him, and we didn't see that in the show.
He was that. Well, he also probably doesn't have his actual super abilities
Powers.
too.
Which I kind of wish he did, because then there's stakes.
He just kind of found him. If you remember, it was at that train station. So he's a one-off kind of guy.
Long
Very
after
cool.
this, after Kingpin would become mayor, the Muse would be set free to do more shit, like painting murals of superheroes all over New York City, harassing young women who compliment his work on the street, calling them pretty over and over and over again, and even have a rematch against Blindspot, with the two pretty much tying each other, until Blindspot would make a deal with the devil to amass enough strength to finally break the Muse. However, during their last fight, the Muse was so stubborn on the idea of losing to Blindspot that he would literally walk into a ball of fire and kill himself, ending the absolute wild story that was the Muse's villainous and artistic career.
That told me all I needed to know about the Muse.
He's even there during the mayor shit, so they did their
Yeah,
research.
yeah. So they did a little bit of research, at least enough. I would say not enough in their part, but making that shit make sense. But whatever.